Hey everyone, welcome to Our Small Footprint. My name is Nyssa, and if you're new here, we are a family of 8 who live off-grid in Australia. It is Wednesday today, and I am catching up on a whole bunch of videos that need to be put out. So, I am due to leave for my next supply run in a week, so next Wednesday. Darryl is going away for this whole weekend for Synod, so I am trying to get everything sort of scheduled before then. So I have some notes here for some voiceovers, and what I did was I went through all my footage that I had left and I collated it all into a set amount of videos. I also have a what week in a week in there for you, so that was post the hamper coming, so all the stuff that we did with a lot of that stuff, and then I'll have to do my planning over the weekend while Darryl's away. I'll do my inventorying and everything else, and I'll take you along for that as well. So I think it's 7 videos or something all lined up ready to go once I get all the voiceovers done and things like that, but over the next week and a bit before I come back with the new supply run. So I have 2 videos worth of file notes here that I'm gonna, of 2 videos worth of voiceovers here that I'm gonna try and get done this afternoon, and then I'm still typing out more of the others, and so what I'll do is I'll try and get them done over the next couple of days as well, so that I can just get them all lined up and ready to go. And then that will finish off when did I end up going? April's supply run videos, and then we'll start straight into the June-July ones once I get back with the groceries from there. So yes, for anyone who's just popping in, I shop every 8 to 9 weeks, and lately it's 8 to 9 weeks, and when I come back from my shopping, what I like to do is I do a lot of bulk cooking, I do a lot of experimental stuff with recipes, and I do a lot of making things out of whatever I could get on cheap or in season and things like that, and I share it all with everyone here. So you're coming and basically just joining me in the kitchen. That is what it ends up being. I film exactly what I do, and what I do is what I share. I do notes, so I end up looking at my footage and then I type out notes, and I use these notes to do voiceovers for it because it's impossible to talk in my kitchen while I'm doing that. The kids have music running. I homeschool, so the kids are coming in and out all the time getting schoolwork done, or I'm yelling backwards and forwards for them, or we've got some sort of a experiment going on a table or something like that, and there's the dogs, and it's loud. So for me, it's much easier to do the voiceovers, and apparently I have a fairly good voice for it, so I get told. So they're apparently quite pleasant to listen to. I do sometimes feel like I don't stop talking. And I talk quite fast. I get a lot of people asking me to slow down. Now, this is my standard speech speed. Australians talk pretty fast, and I have tried to slow down, but what happens is that I'll slow down a little bit, and then when I start getting on a run about something, I'll speed back up again, and then I'll go, oh, and then I'll try and slow down, and it just doesn't work. I also tried dropping the speed a little bit when I do the voiceovers into the system, but that doesn't work either. It just sounds odd. So those who can't stand the speed that I talk will just have to watch someone else, I suppose. So let's get into it. This is, I think we're up to, I think I've started, the last video was like number 9 or something, but these ones I'm classing as June because we're crossing over into June. So this is the first one of June. And as I said, I think I've got 7 all up, so we'll get to it. So we'll get to this first one, and I will see you at the end. So I got a Ninja Creami for my birthday and Mother's Day, sort of a crossover, and I've been experimenting a lot with it, and I haven't been sharing direct recipes or anything yet, or or making any shorts of recipes or anything like that, because we're still experimenting with what works, and you can only eat so much ice cream. So it's going to be a couple of weeks to a couple of months of experimenting before we figure out what we like, because if you're only eating 1 ice cream a night, then you're only testing 1 per day, even if you're making a batch of them. So while I'm doing that, I'm sharing bits and pieces throughout these, day in the life sort of in my kitchen videos, but I'm not sharing any huge details on it. So at the moment, I bought extra tubs, and so we're making them up in bulk so that they're just sitting in the freezer, frozen, ready to go. Now, the kids' stuff and Darryl's stuff I make predominantly on coconut cream. I tend to make mine on cow's milk because I can, and cow's milk is fairly inexpensive, and, I can use it, so why not? But I make just about everything that I either share with the kids or that they have on coconut cream. I actually couldn't get enough of the coconut cream that I normally use from Costco the month before last, and then last month we ran out this month of the stuff that I bought. So what I did was I ordered some bulk coconut cream through Hello Pure, and that's what this big carton is. And it comes in a 5 kilo bag, which for a lot of people would be inconvenient, but it's one of those things that says you have to use it within 7 days of opening. And for us, 5 kilos we can go through in 7 days. Between cooking, we use it for our coffee, ice cream, any white sauces, anything like that, we can go through it. So, and we've been using about one a week. The price of it isn't bad. It was a little bit more expensive this particular time because I got it shipped to me, but the next supply run I'm picking some up at Mum's. I've had it delivered to Mum's and it's free shipping to Mum's place. So the cost per litre, I think it ended up being $4. I can't remember. It was $190 for 8 5 kilo lots. I think it ended up being $4 a litre or something, which isn't bad. A 400ml tin from Aldi is about $1, so it's not too bad a price difference, and it's actually a much better emulsified product. The tins of coconut cream we struggle with because they have that whole setting point, and using it for coffee is next to impossible. It ends up with big clumps in your coffee. So we tend to use that for cooking and stuff, but if we can use the same product for everything, there's a whole lot of less rubbish too. So some of the things we've been making for the kids has been some of the Macromike protein powders. These are a almond or peanut based protein powder, and they are all dairy free, which means that I can use them, the kids can use them, and whatever else. And the whole point of the ice cream every night thing is just trying to make some alternatives that aren't quite as unhealthy as standard ice cream. So by adding protein mixes to it, then it's just making it's got artificial sweeteners in it, so it's still sweet but without the sugar content and that sort of thing. So we're just experimenting. So I did a peanut butter protein, which was peanut butter and honey protein powder with frozen bananas from the freezer and a little maple syrup, and mixed that up for the kids to try. That one went down very well. I also did another batch of the chocolate custard in the Thermomix because that's always a winner. It's chocolate ice cream. It's chocolate custard ice cream and it's delicious. I did some single cup serves of cow's milk ones with the protein powders to try it as well. As I said, these are all almond or peanut protein powders, which are dairy-free, so the kids can have them or I can have them. They're a good texture. They blend really well into the milk, and they don't have that chalky aftertaste that I find a lot of the pea proteins and stuff in it. These do have some fava bean protein in them, but they're predominantly peanut or almond protein, and the texture just seems to work really well. I have found that with just the protein powder on its own, it's just a little bit too mild, even with only 250 mils of milk, which is a single serve that I use, because everything is much milder when it's frozen. So your taste buds, it's to do with the way your taste buds taste things when something is really cold compared to when it's not. So things, when you taste them before it's frozen, you want them to be a lot sweeter than what you think you want, because once it's frozen, it's not going to taste as sweet. So a single serve of Biscoff in these works amazingly well. If you're looking at the calories added, it's minimal in the scope, but whilst I am making some healthier choices so that I can have ice cream every night without the guilt, I'm not doing this as part of a diet or calorie counting or anything else, so I'm not concerned. So a little serve, I think it's 15 grams, a tablespoon is the serving size of Biscoff. I am going to get some bakery emulsion flavours in the mail soon, which I thought might work with a little of the monk fruit as the same overall end result, but cheaper in the long run. Biscoff isn't cheap, like the jars of it aren't cheap, and if you're using a tablespoon at a time, it lasts a while, but it's still not the most, but it is very tasty, and the kids really like it as well. The other option is some flavoured syrups, either, the liquid raw sugar ones. They're tasty, but obviously high in sugar because they're just sugar syrups, or some of the sugar-free ones, which have their own pros and cons. Sugar is one of those things, isn't it? It's like we'd all like to reduce it because, sugar is not great for you, but we also want to enjoy our sweets, and sometimes the replacements come with their own cons. Like some of the alternative sweeteners have their own issues as well. So, it's a toss-up, isn't it? I have tried some xanthan gum, as has been suggested in the Creami pages, which I have a jar of because I used to do all my baking gluten-free, and it's used a lot in flour mixes when you're doing gluten-free baking. But the Macromike powders, protein powders, do have some guar gum in them already, so they aren't too bad with the blending. But it does seem that there's more ice left in the bottom without the xanthan gum added. So the xanthan gum helps to stop that crystallization of the ice in it, and it does seem to work. I split up the chocolate custard and got that put away, and then put on a vanilla custard. I'm looking for a nice basic vanilla for mix-ins, so we could have like a couple of packs of Oreos or things like that can be mixed in, or I could make them some dairy-free caramel and they could drizzle that, or I could do, in summer, I could do the you know, the coconut oil faux magic shell stuff for it and things like that. Similar recipe to the chocolate custard, but without the chocolate to give a go. I think I would have to bump the egg yolks in the vanilla though. This was quite mild. It wasn't particularly vanilla-y, it wasn't particularly creamy. I think without because the chocolate one has ground up chocolate that's melted into the custard, whereas the vanilla one doesn't have that. I think it definitely needs more egg yolks, and I'm going really lean on the egg yolks in these custards lately because we just haven't had many. The Creamy recipe book has a base recipe for vanilla without eggs or cooking, but they use cream cheese as sort of an emulsifier or a thickener. I might give it a go at some point, but I'm not sure what I'd use as an alternative for the kids. I could make some kefir cheese maybe, and that would probably work similarly, but I don't really want to buy dairy-free vegan cheese, like a vegan cream cheese alternative to use it, because that's sort of defeating the purpose of it, especially when I can just cook it with an egg yolk and it does the same sort of thing. And in spring and summer we have plenty of eggs, so that's not really a big deal. I tried some Biscoff in the vanilla base and some instant coffee in the other. I then made the kids a Biscoff coconut as well, which for most of them so far has been their favourite. They've really enjoyed that Biscoff vanilla flavour. So I got all 7 filled, labelled and in the freezer to try out. This was on a Friday, so they need 24 hours in the freezer minimum before you use them. The next night we had a penne pasta for dinner. Super simple, basically a creamy white sauce using the roasted garlic butter, a bit of flour and some chicken stock and coconut cream. I cooked up one of the boneless chickens and I cooked off the broccoli in the last few minutes of the pasta and mixed it all together. Just a creamy chicken, broccoli, dairy-free penne pasta dish. Super simple, but really tasty. And then we made ice cream after, which is really what I was sharing about this day. Now, I don't know if anyone else who owns one has the same issue, but I regularly cannot get it to run the first time. I have to switch it off at the power and then back on again and reinstall the jug. I have no idea why, but it errors out the first time. I would say 9 out of 10 times that I try and run it. That first initial attempt, it'll error out and I have to turn the power off and on. Don't know what's going on there. I did the vanilla Biscoff first and I put it on light ice cream. Really probably should have put it on ice cream rather than light ice cream. It has vanilla essence in it, which is alcohol based, as well as the eggs. So it went to almost a soft serve consistency on light ice cream. It could also be because it was only just 24 hours and I'm using the drawer of one of my upright freezers, so it might not have been quite chilled enough. It was delicious regardless, but it was very soft serve. The kids wanted their Biscoff one as well. So this is basically just coconut cream, Biscoff, a bit of xanthan gum. So I did it on light ice cream. After the first spin it wasn't bad, but not overly creamy. So I put it on a respin and it came out perfectly. So both of those were winners. Now I've quickly collated some other nights of the batches of ice cream to share. So this is running through a few nights here, which I won't show in any other days if I'm sharing stuff from other days. The next night we tried the chocolate custard again. I put it on ice cream, not light ice cream, which is only 2 minutes. It was quite crumbly, so I put it on for a respin. After that respin, it still wasn't great. So I put it in again, and it was still a little crumbly. I added a dollop of coconut cream and spun it again, and that time it came out perfectly. Now, I am pulling these out 10 to 15 minutes before spinning, but my kitchen is probably a similar temperature to a fridge at the moment. So I think sometimes I'm not getting all the variables right, and that's why I'm getting such dissimilar results from the same basic recipes, which I'm working with. So we're just figuring it out. As I said, I don't want to share this sort of stuff until I've got it figured out. So this is my process. I also spun up the single serve of the protein powder with Biscoff on light ice cream, so the 4-minute cycle, and it was perfect straight from the tub. The next night we did the coconut milk with the peanut butter and honey protein powder and the frozen banana for the kids on light ice cream, and it only needed the 1 spin. The frozen banana would help with this because it wouldn't freeze solid. Like banana never freezes completely solid, and there was 2 bananas in this mix, so it would have kept it from freezing as solid, and it came out perfectly. And the banana one was definitely a favourite of some of the kids. There was a couple who didn't like it as much, but there was a lot who liked it. I'm not a huge fan of like the whole banana and ice cream thing. I don't really like the texture of banana frozen and spun like that, but the kids used to eat it all the time, so just, you know, we tried it. I tried the vanilla custard based one with the instant coffee in it. I do want to try steeping coffee beans in milk for a more rounded coffee flavour rather than the instant coffee, but this was a nice quick try. I spun it on ice cream, which is the 2-minute cycle, and it came out very soft. I'm thinking it might be the vanilla essence in this one that's caused it. I might have overdone it because it was a vanilla ice cream and I was trying to hit that vanilla flavour. I think I want to scrape some vanilla beans out into the next one that I try, and I'm actually going to put some spent vanilla beans that I used to make essence. I'm going to cut them up and put them in a big jar of sugar. So in a couple of months, I'll have some really nice vanilla sugar as well that I could be using. And because the vanilla essence is alcohol based, it lowers the freezing point of the ice cream, or lifts the freezing point, whichever way you want to look at it. And then it was also the egg-based custard, so the eggs cause it not to freeze up as much too. So I don't know, but it was still ice cream. It was, again, just kind of like a soft serve. So onto food that isn't ice cream. One of the next tasks I had to do was to sort out the beef trim that I bought from Costco. So for anyone who hasn't seen this before, when I go to Costco, instead of purchasing pre-minced beef, I knock on the butcher window and I purchase the vacuum-packed beef that they turn into their mince. So it's just before they've turned it into the mince, this is what it looks like. Some months it's been very small pieces and really only good for mincing, and other months I get some lovely big chunks to use in a myriad of ways. So it's worth buying, and some months I get lots of mince and some months I get other things. This month's batch was a really good batch, some really large pieces of beef with lots of usable parts for other things than mince, and still plenty to be minced as well. So I sliced it all in a variety of ways. I did some really nice thin pieces for velveting for stir fries, something we love using beef for when we have it available to use. I also sliced off a piece as a quick minute steak for Darryl while I was doing it. He was standing there ogling the beef and, wanting steak. This isn't really steak, and even as minute steak it was a little tough, but it's very tasty beef. So I also cut some into really nice big chunks to make birria with, some to dice smaller for pie, fillings and stews, and the rest for mincing for bolognese and hamburgers and things like that. I ended up with about 3 kilos of the sort of slivered pieces for things like stir fry and that, about 3 kilos of really big pieces to use in the pressure cooker for, say, birria or some sort of pulled beef or a pot roast or anything like that. I had 4 kilos for pie filling or stews, diced beef for that sort of thing, and about 8.5 kilos for mincing. A really good range of things to do with this batch of the style of it. Now, I will have a fair bit left in the fridge by the time I shop again, but because it's vacuum sealed, I can actually buy a new box and it can sit in the bottom of the fridge for 4 or 5 weeks before I get to it, so I will probably still buy another box because beef mince is one of those things that I can always find a meal to make out of. The next day I did my bread prep, a batch of flatbreads to eat for lunch. I don't seem to have any footage of what we ate them with, mind you. It might have been some of that stir-fry beef. Maybe I cooked some of that up. And French bread rolls because I'm still just getting it exactly how I want it to be. It's sort of showing over this month how many times I make these recipes before I'm really comfortable sharing them and making sure that they're working the way that I think they should, and being comfortable that if you follow my instructions you will get the same results, because I hate for people to have fails and it be my fault. So for dinner I decided to make a basic stroganoff, so we're using some of this beef up before we freeze it. I had mushrooms in the freezer, and Darryl really likes stroganoff. Some kids are a little less enamored of mushrooms, but I'm going to cook this over the whole day, so they'll break down as it cooks and be small. I'm not a huge fan of big chunks of mushroom either, but it'll break down enough that it'll be tolerable. I seasoned the beef with some salt and pepper and flour and browned it in the pan to get it all that nice flavour in the bottom. Once I browned it off in batches, I added some onion. I'm using the onion we got from the hamper a couple of months ago still that was frozen to use it up. I added some liquid to help deglaze the pan with the onions and pull all those crispy bits up off the bottom, and added the mushrooms, which were frozen, so they will also release some liquid as they heat. Once the mushrooms were defrosted, the crust has come up off the bottom of the pot and all that sort of thing. I added the beef back in. I added some water and some Vegeta, some Worcestershire sauce, and I think some tomato paste as well. A super simple beefy dish, really letting that beef and mushroom flavour and texture shine through. Very basic sort of flavour profile, but we don't eat beef that much. We don't get the chance to eat it like this very often. So we really enjoy dishes that really let it have that really beefy flavour. Once the French bread had had its second proof, it went into the barbecue to bake. The beef I let simmer all day to let that meat really break down and be tender. I mixed a little lemon juice with some coconut cream for a sour cream style effect, and then poured it into the pot and mixed it through just to add a bit of richness and creaminess to it. It was still a little thinner than I wanted, so I also pulled some of the liquid out of the pot and added some flour to it and made a bit of a roux, and then added it back to the pot while stirring so it would thicken it all up as it simmered. As that flour cooks off, it'll thicken the stew up. I checked the state of the bread once it was cooked and cooled slightly. I'm pretty happy with how it's going. I would like to do a sourdough one eventually, slightly less dense and more chewy. This is more of a dense, sweet, soft bread, purposely for the whole, you know, garlic bread escapade that I'm on. But a sourdough version would be really nice as well. I fried off some of the green beans I had blanched. Now, I have been trying out the different beans and broccoli that I prepped differently before freezing, and I'm really not loving the stuff I blanched. I haven't tried the unblanched yet, but I've tried the blanched stuff in various ways, and it always ends up overcooked and mushy. I think I'll turn the last bit of broccoli I have into dairy-free broccoli and cheese soup. Then the texture is really irrelevant. But the beans, like the beans cooked like this, as soon as they hit the pan, there was just water. The pan was full of water that came straight off the beans, which was unpleasant. I ended up draining that off, and the beans they're just, yeah, not great. And the broccoli that I've used, I've tried cooking it, boiling it in the pasta water for that dish that I made. I've tried steaming it in a steamer. I've tried frying it off, and every time it just ends up overcooked and mushy. So we've eaten it regardless, but definitely have not found it particularly pleasant. I mashed up some potato as well, and we had the stew or the stroganoff or whatever over the mashed potato with the green beans as well. It was tasty, and we had leftovers for lunch the next day. I would have liked carrots or something in the strog, which is, you know, even less traditional, but adds that nice sweetness to the stew. But we didn't have any carrots left at this point of the month, so we didn't get them in there. So that was another couple of days in my kitchen. The creamy stuff, I'm definitely going to be, that's probably the last major share that I'll have of our experimentation, and the next lot that I'll share about it will be stuff that we've really appreciated, enjoyed, and trying some little different things, like that apple pie one. We haven't tried it yet, but it sounds really nice. But trying to do some little left of center type stuff. I am using the protein powders, and I did do an end of financial year order through Macro Mike so that I have the option to have them there, because they do make a really nice simple thing. But there is a few things that are on my shopping list for this shopping period that wouldn't normally be there to try for these. I did have a look at the specials, and Oreos are half price, so I'm going to buy a few of those and things like that, and we're going to give that a go as well. I'd like to get the vanilla base sorted, but we're fairly low on eggs lately, so we'll see how we go with that. And in the end, we'll just keep on experimenting, and once I've got, you know, a couple that I really like, I might just make them into shorts or something to share, that just those particular ones that I really like and the experience with them and things like that. And then maybe in a couple of months time, or heading into summer, I might do a review video to tell you all the things that I've learned over the period of time that I've had it, because everyone's always interested in, you know, what you found the flaws with it and what you don't like about it and things like that as well. At the moment, we're loving everything about it. It's making ice cream out of just about anything, and it's making it, well, like, it's all creamy, and yes, there's some iciness, and yes, it's not actually ice cream, but we knew going into it that it wasn't going to be. And I think that's the thing too. Some people get really disappointed because they've got some ice crystals and things like that, and they go on, well, it isn't really an ice cream maker, is it? So you want to take it for what it is. But anyway, that was another couple of days in my kitchen, and I will see you guys on the next video. Thanks for watching.